this, huh?
I did.
Yeah, I want to get home before it freezes.
I'm waiting on you.
All right, here we go.
All right, we're going to begin the meeting here of the Finance Committee here. It's January 10th. I'm joined by Alderman Tom Slotnick, Alderman Tom Duane, and Alderman Mark Sawyer. I'm Joe Moore. Thank you. If I need a motion on the agenda.
Second?
We got a motion and a second to approve. All in favor? Aye. And none opposed. Item number 3 is approval of the minutes, Finance from December 13th.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. And none opposed. Item number 4, report of the purchasing manager. Item A is consideration of possible action, the request for approval to purchase a Unitrends backup storage and recovery system from the low responsible bidder.
Make a motion to approve so we can get it under discussion.
We haven't seen the information.
I'll second
No,
that.
I said just
Well,
get
second for
support
discussion.
Second for discussion.
I got a motion and a second for discussion.
I like the motion.
Yeah.
No, I know we got to talk about it, but get the process started.
Okay, staff.
This item was put out for bid. This is a additional storage and backup system for the IT department. So Mike, if you have technical questions, Mike can answer that. We put it out for bid. We got 4 responses. We're recommending, we had 2 options. The difference between option 1 and option 2 had to do with storage capacity. And the IT department is recommending that we go with option 1, which is the less expensive, feeling that the storage capacity will serve the city for the next 3 years. So our recommendation is to award the purchase to Contingency Planning Solutions, Inc. For $92,191.
What was the cause of the huge variance between vendors 1 and 2 and vendors 3 and 4?
Mike might be able to address that. The industry, gives deeper discounts to some of their distributors than others, and that's not uncommon, and I don't know, Mike, if that's...
correct. Okay. I just want to make sure they're bidding the same thing here.
Yeah.
It's kind of crazy. Okay, is there any other discussion from the committee? Well, we do have a motion and a second on the floor then. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And opposed? None. Great. Thank you, Mr. Jensen. All right, item number 5. Consideration of possible action, the request from Police Chief Andrew Smith for a new 5-year TASER lease program.
Move to approve.
Alderman Duane, are you going to be the test subject?
I'll do it.
I've got a motion to approve. We got a second for discussion?
Second for discussion.
Motion and second for discussion. Great. Chief
You
Smith.
jumped on that right away.
So I brought with me Ben Allen, who's in charge of our training, and he knows much more about tasers than I do. The taser, as you know, is an electronic device that our officers use as an alternative to other methods of force on an individual. It has 2 ways of being used. It either shoots out 2 little darts that stick in the person's body or clothing, gives them an electrical shock, rendering them generally helpless, and they fall to the ground and take them into custody. Or it also has a direct stun capability where you click the switch and you hold it against a person's body if you're in a fighting situation, and that generally renders them incapacitated. It's been very effective across the country for decades. We carried them for 30 or more years. The tasers that we have now are 2 different models. There's the X2, which is the newer model, and there's the X26. The old X26s we have are supposed to have a shelf life of 5 years. We're currently still sending some out in the field that are as old as 2005. So we've got 10 years that we've used, or 12 years that we've used these tasers. We're still using them because we're buying new tasers piecemeal, 10 per year in our budget we buy, and this is an opportunity for us to get into a new lease program where if anything happens to these new tasers, the 44 new ones, they'll replace them for free, repair them for free. They will actually buy those old X26s off us or give us $100 credit for each one of those old X26s, which we can't use anymore. Right now we have 54 X26s, we have 44 of the X2s. I'd like to get another 44 of the X2s. That way all of our officers will be able to use the X2s on everything except our biggest deployments, which would be Packer games and 4th of July. In those cases, we have to save some of the really old X26s to make sure that every officer has at least one to go out there. But we do use the newer ones, X26s, that are still capable of working. So the idea is we take the money out of our training budget and our ammunition and firearms budget. So we just basically, I guess, need approval to enter into this 5-year contract with Taser Corporation.
Is there a reason that, or what is the reason, I should say, I'm sure there is one, that we would keep any of the X26s and we wouldn't get what we need right now?
Only because we would need enough to do, say, a Packer game, there's probably about 100 officers working, same with 4th of July, and we would only have about 88 of the X2s. It's conceivable that we could bump up the total numbers to add another 10 onto this, but that might push us beyond what our training budget and our ammunition budget could handle.
What is the cost to do this if we did the extra 10 or
Right, I
12?
was gonna
And
say so.
Yeah.
To get the extra 12, it's going to be about $1,000 per taser for the additional one, so.
You know, you look at public safety of the officers and everything else, that's nothing, you know.
So those are the two events you're talking about? July
Those are the
4th.
two biggest events that we have where we have the maximum number of officers out there. Rest of the time, guy comes in from day watch, puts his taser in the rack, guy from night watch comes in and takes the taser out, assuming it's charged up. I'm certainly willing to-
The extras.
I'm gonna make a motion that, how many total do you need?
54, I think.
56?
56. We have 44, need 100, 56?
What are we at right now?
the request is for 44, we would need 56 to
Yeah, so,
completely.
yeah, so we need 12 extra.
12 extra.
And, you know, if it has to, we can look, you know, take it out of
General?
general or
Contingency.
contingency.
We left a lot of money in
Yeah.
contingency this
I
year.
I would vote that.
Yeah, that'll be my motion, that we
motion, I
have that we get the amount we need and the rest of the money comes out of our contingency. We put,
Okay.
I second that.
We'll look again, if it's okay with you, we'll look again at the total number that we would need to equip everyone, including the Packer games and the guys that are on the road at the same time, and we'll
Yeah.
get back with that.
perfect.
If, for a recommendation here, Alderman Dwayne, and if we're looking at about $1,000 apiece, do you want to use an amount up to, like, up to $15,000 to completely
What do you think
outfit
the
and
most
use
that
from
you would go
contingency?
over?
I defer to Paul, who does all our Packer deployment, assuming that the folks in the control room don't need them, the ones that are out there working, in addition to the officers on the road at the time.
If we said 15,000, you think that would cover it?
How many is that total?
15 more?
15.
About 15 more.
It's 88 plus 15.
100.
So we
We
we have
deploy
we have
almost
100 officers, anywhere from 98 to 102 to 104 officers at a game, depending on what's going on in the world.
So how many do we need to get to that point?
And then that doesn't include the shift, so if we have a day shift working, and officers on the road.
So it's 100 plus 14.
Can
Plus
can you
14
get the
or
number
after.
and what it's gonna cost at, for the council meeting?
Sure.
And we can,
Yeah, I don't mind 12 or
Yeah, sure.
15,000, but if we start talking 30 or 40, then,
Yeah.
you know.
yeah, you know, if it comes 15, 17,
So is that your
18.
motion then for 15?
Yeah.
Up to 15?
And then come, yeah.
Okay.
I
We'll
have
bring that on
one
Tuesday?
question.
Yes, sir.
Why did you not ask for that number?
The bigger number?
Yes.
I didn't, honestly, I didn't really think we'd get it. I was hoping to replace the ones that we'd had and be able to stay within our training and ammo budget. I didn't think, if we do this, it's gonna cause us to go out of the training and ammo budget that we have. And we'll have to get the money from someplace else.
All right.
Well, and because this is a lease term, then would we be looking at the additional funds in next year's budget that we would have to account for as well? I mean, and is this going to be a rolling annual expense?
Yeah, the budget for the 44 tasers, the budget for year one, which is this year, will be $14,608. That's with the trade-in. Next year and the following year, it will be $19,080. And again, we could make that out of our training and our ammo and firearms budget, but if it goes above that, I think that's gonna bust our budget and we won't be able to.
I think what we're saying, you gotta make sure it's in your budget for the total that we need. You know, add it to your budget for
Are we good?
Add to the budget
for your
For next
training, yeah.
Put that in there so we can.
Well, I think it's up to the department leadership to decide what their highest priorities are for that budget item.
No, I agree, but
So if you think there are other things that are more important to be spending out of that budget item, then we ought to be encouraging him to do that rather than prescribing how much should be spent on this item. I guess I'm looking for,
Yeah, in Andrew's perfect world, it would be, we'd have a taser for every officer that's working the game and enough tasers to cover the officers that are working the shift out there.
Which at a maximum is 118.
It looks like it. So what I'll do is I'll get a solid number on that. We'll look at all the Packer games we had this year, look at the number of staff at the Lambeau and the number of staff on the field, and I'll get you that solid number by next Tuesday.
okay.
That's perfect. Well, the motion on the floor was to approve. Do we want to change that motion, or how do we want to? At a minimum, I mean, you want to approve this at a minimum as it is now, and then maybe make a
Well,
motion at
let's
at
make a
council to
motion
change it if
that
we
we
need to?
fit every officer with a taser gun on the force.
Every
You know, I
officer
mean,
that's
yeah,
working in the
on the
field.
ship.
And that you're gonna come back with the amount at the
the
council
amount.
meeting, what that amount will be.
Yes, sir.
And this year, we'll take it out of, you know, we'll discuss that, again, general fund, or,
And if necessary, we'd make adjustments to our budget requests at the
Yeah.
end of
yeah.
You do know this means you're not getting a police station now, right?
Just today.
Well, that was easy.
All right. Okay, we've got a motion and a second on the floor to outfit the, sounds like we'll see what that number is, I guess, but, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And opposed? None.
Thank you.
Great,
Okay.
thank you. Item number 6 is consideration of possible action, the request by Alderman John Vanderleest for more options for a public safety building. I also had is there a communication, no, we just referred this, asked to refer the motion that was at council back to us as well, but that didn't make the agenda, but it kind of covered the same item. There was a motion to receive and place on file the report by Bray, and we
Okay. And then
then
there was a late
overrode
commu-
that and had it referred here.
Well, there was a late communication from John Vanderleest.
And then a late communication as well, so kind of, this is just covering both items then. Okay, well, Alderman Vanderleest, I think we know where you're going here, but would you want to just come up and just address us formally here?
Thank you, Chairman, Alderman.
Yep.
We got a little handout here earlier, and it talks about, some other options. I just want to remind the council that the Sheriff's Department was redone here a few years back. And they got a pretty nice facility, and they didn't spend a real big dollar amount. My main concern was that, that we explored the options a little bit. I know they need a 21,000 square foot building for storage, both the police and the fire. And if that building there, if that seems like that's a real immediate need, which I'm sure it is, that we might look at that a little closer as far as maybe getting that one in the works. And I think that would help a lot. And then in the meantime, some of the options that they gave here, like on option 1 and option 2, but they're talking about the existing facilities and different options. I think these are good ideas, and, we didn't really talk about it. We haven't done much discussion. I think that's the main
Right.
reason I brought it up. And basically, they hit the study and they gave it to us, and, it's a high figure, but I think we can, do a good job as far as finding the right tools to get it done. And some of the options that they laid out here in number 1 and number 2, accessing the existing building, determine feasibility. And then on number 2, these are just newly brought up. These are some of the things that, to conduct a search for the building with parcels, within the area. But basically, that's what the county did, and they found the right building, and it's a big enough facility, and I think that's kind of where I'm going with this. And, that we talk about it more, and if everybody gets, more information, we can make better decisions. And I know that there's options here, and that's kind of where I'd like to see it go. And I think that's, they've already brought back, this part as far as the, the additional options that are available. And I think this is,
I think it's completely reasonable, and then looking at the option 1, option 2, I don't know that option 1 is really feasible as far as doing any more to the existing building than what's already been done over the last 20 years. Alderman Dwayne, I know you've spent some time, down there touring it, and Alderman Slotnick, and, we've been through there and trying to retrofit that building any more than it already is, where people have desks and hallways and closets. I don't know that that's an option as much, but option 2.
I was wondering if that building would be feasible to put another story right on it. That I think, is that what they're...
Can't go up any further.
Can't go
Nope, we looked at that 3 or 4 years ago, actually.
Yeah, and if you really go look inside there, it's kind of, you look in there, you seem like you got a lot of closets. People hiding in closets all over the place, and that's what it looks like. I mean, and we're piling stuff in there. I mean, if you go in there, just take a look around, and you don't know if it's a closet, you don't know if it's a storage room, but there's always a guy sitting in there, or a girl sitting, hiding in there somewhere. They need room.
There is currently off-site storage as well. The facility that's off-site right now would certainly need a lot of upgrades and and such to actually become like an evidence storage.
What is the storage capacity they have right now?
Captain Ebel would,
I'm not sure what the size of that building is. I know we have several cars in there for our long-term evidence storage of the larger items like couches and beds and vehicles. I'd have to get the exact size.
there would be some significant retrofitting to it. Again, you gotta get your air ducting and everything, controlled environment. But at the cost, I think, of the original, it was like $6 million. It would, I don't believe that it would come near that to get that building, like you had mentioned, if that's our first step of this, and then here we go. But looking at option 2 here, where you're at $250 per building for an analysis and, or $1,250 for the analysis and inventory, and $250 each for building profiles, it seems like it's a pretty reasonable and inexpensive way for us to take another option to see if another building that might be out there right now available could be added onto, retrofitted, technology could be put into it the right way. So I'm glad that we have this back here to look at, but, and I'll open it up to the committee here for discussion.
Thank you, Chair. Thanks, John, for just bringing this forward. I think we do need something in the near future, I would think, but I'm all about adaptive reuse for one thing, so I would like to at least look at those options and see what might be available. What did you say the sheriff's department cost, roughly?
I don't know the exact figures, but I know that it's not a real,
I think it was like $5 million for a building or
About $5
something
million.
like that, yeah.
it seems like they got a big enough facility for their buck,
What it was a car dealership, and all the space they had in there, and what they did, then.
Interior walls are
Yeah,
cheap.
Yeah, but then the cost
the
of
shell.
renovating and everything brought it up more, but, yeah.
I got one more thought too, and I know we didn't really discuss this, but with the police department too, you have your little satellite offices, if you will, out on the west side and on the east side. And the city of Green Bay is, 14 miles wide by about 4 miles, in width. And I've always thought that with a city this size too, in terms of geographic area, if there would be a way to look at having, something on the east side and west side.
Precincts?
Precincts, yeah, precincts. You grew up in Milwaukee, we had precincts. But something on that order. And I don't know if we're still looking at the thought of having just one central police fire, if you will, and then maybe satellites with that, or think about it in terms of a precinct where we might have an existing building, or there might be some property in maybe troubled areas on the east side where we could focus a little bit more rather than just staying in the downtown area. So that's one of my thoughts too going forward.
I don't know that that's something that Bray would have to look at. That would be
No.
something that I believe our own police chief could make that analysis.
I know we're looking just specifically at this right now.
I think the main thing is just that we keep the discussion going, and we find the options that we can make some good headway.
Have you had a chance to go down and tour the facility since you got elected?
I haven't been down to the city police station at this time, but I'll take a look at it for sure.
Yeah, it would be worth it. Even just talk to Captain Neville, set something up. We've had an opportunity to walk through and kind of see some of the struggles that are there. And it seems like the focus, and Chief Smith, you could correct me if I'm wrong here, but it's like the first step of this is creating efficiencies. And, once you've got that, then you'll start to see cost savings over time and that was part of the discussion. I had a lot of questions about what can be done outside of this building, but really centralizing everything.
But they
Seemed
put
to
an
make
annex.
the most sense and be the most cost-effective was having it centrally located.
If they do look at it, maybe they could look at it, at putting an annex on that existing building and taking some of the existing properties that are right nearby and expanding the footprint. That's another option. I'm sure you're gonna look at those type of things.
Sure.
Who's the actual person involved as far as, who's the headhunter that's, has the real hands-on as far as getting this project underway?
It's really us.
The city staff,
This is up
city
to us. I
staff
mean,
is-
we're the ones that can kill this thing or keep it moving. And I think it's really important that we, at a minimum, keep it moving, and checking the options, seeing what's there.
Is your question, who is directing Bray in their activities?
Well, in other words, is there city staff involved as far as, getting this project underway? Who's
Yeah,
the-
somebody has to be directing Bray. I frankly don't know who that is.
Okay.
Well, we have,
We have Captain John Laux, who's been assigned from our office, who's been working hand in hand with Bray at multiple meetings, goes with them to look at different different options or different sites, things like that. He's really the cornerstone of the police department's involvement.
And then
So-
Assistant Chief Goblin from the fire department is the other component of that. And then,
Well, there's your names.
Okay.
There's the people that are leading it.
and I sit on that committee when I have time as well.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Alderman Van der Leest. Yes, Alderman Dwayne?
Yeah, I think what Alderman Van der Leest wants to make sure we do, and I'm sure you've done it, is are there buildings out there we might be able to use that are standing out there somewhere? So, I don't know if you talked to anybody.
I know we have looked at a number of those buildings, sir, and we are
Yeah,
continuing
yeah,
to look at those in
yeah,
other buildings.
I know you are. And I just want to put it out, out there that we are looking at it, but, because it wasn't said, because as you know, Alderman Zeman brought up at the last meeting, council meeting. And, everybody knows who I am, and I like to have a sense of humor. When I said the Taj Mahal, that the paper keeps saying, I want to build Taj Mahal, I get phone calls right away. But, no, I want to make sure that, if you go by, you don't know what's the police department until you actually drive by and see the police cars there, and it'll say Green Bay Police. But it looks like a little office building that's really did its time, and we need to look forward and get something done, but, yeah.
Now, Alderman Dwayne, obviously, there's going to be a cost associated with this.
Right.
I believe it's the goal of the committee to keep moving this forward, but we just need to discuss, are we going to cap this? There's $1,250 for analysis and inventory and $250 each for the building profile. Could I ask, are there any other additional costs that we should expect to see from this?
Yeah, thank you. Mike Hacker with Bray Architects. Thank you
Mike.
for the chance to be here. Yeah, we were asked basically to approach this as an amendment to our contract and basically look at how can we continue this study and provide these additional services. And so within that, we tried to break those two out as you've discussed, and then in this latter piece, we attempted to be as inclusive as possible there, but we wanted to be sure we identified what wasn't included in that effort. So if you look on that handout, there were a couple items there, specific to real estate analysis, if properties are for sale on the market or not. That's not a service we provide. We wanted to be sure that we just noted that, without full access to those buildings, which is difficult to do kind of in an open public setting before negotiating sale prices and things, to actually get in and study the existing systems in that building and acquire floor plans and things like that. So what we attempted to do is provide an approach that we would work with the steering committee, look at a 2-mile radius of downtown. We create criteria of what defines buildings that fit this, and that's going to be a combination of square footage, available extra site, if in fact we need the building to grow in that case, and or, as you all know, as we presented last time, there's quite a bit of parking that comes along with this, so there's going to need to be a fair amount of either surface parking or access to parking structure or whatever that may be. So our hope there was that we create a framework to filter this analysis, identify the buildings, kind of inventory them, and then provide a profile for each one of those buildings, and that's that second number there. It's difficult for us that could be 2 buildings, that could be 50 buildings. Without starting that process, it's difficult to tell you that. And for us, that profile really would be a snapshot that would help kind of describe that building, describe the characteristics of that building as best that we can gather. And from there, provide a bit of a framework for the group to make some next step decisions, whether we need to study any of those further or not.
Thank you, Chair. Michael, you brought up a good point where you're saying that even with other buildings, to do adaptive reuse, if you will, a lot of times you don't have a tremendous window in terms of time, with something like that. So I realize that would be a challenge, but I'm sure it's been done elsewhere as well. So I think we're all kind of concerned that way. We would really like to look at those options.
Yep.
So have we looked at the city as far as what buildings we own yet, or?
I think that would be a part of this analysis.
You haven't
Yep.
done any of that?
We have not,
So,
yeah.
okay.
Naturally, as you start talking need, we start talking solutions, and as a group, we've kicked around potential sites and potential buildings, but that's technically outside of our core services and our initial contract, so that's really where we wanted to provide clarity and as much transparency here that if we want to
So if we went
specifically.
that route, you were saying it would be an amendment to your contract?
We would include, if those were buildings within this 2-mile radius, we'd be studying that as potential options, just as we would privately owned buildings.
All right, that's all, thanks.
Yes, Alderman Dwayne.
I just want to make a point that, you know, we all agree that we need to get this done, but time is really important on this project. We need to get some, I don't want to see us talking, who's ever on the council 5 years from now, and we're still here, like other projects. You saw what happened just recently, concrete goes up. I mean, if we're going to build something or add something or whatever, time is important, so.
Yeah.
So, how to pay for it? If we used $10,000 toward it, that'd be your $1,250 on your analysis inventory, and it would cover up to 35 buildings if we did a max of 10,000. Just trying to crunch a number real quick, but,
Seems like a fair amount.
first week of January, I don't want to burn up all of our contingency. But well, I mean, if there's anybody on the committee here that would want
How have we been paying for
Motion for
their
it.
services thus far?
to, it was done out of building maintenance. Police Department building maintenance did this, correct?
There was some money set aside in the 2016 budget for this. The initial contract came in very low. I don't know how much money remains in that fund, Diana.
Unfortunately, I don't know the
Well, that's
answer,
the
but I
first
definitely can
question.
give you the answer.
Yep.
They came in with a very good price, so there should be some money left in that fund.
Well, I would make a recommendation that we use those funds to continue, and if more funds are needed, then that comes back to this committee.
Right.
I'll get that answer.
Somebody want to make that into a motion here?
I'll make that motion.
Okay, so the motion is going to be that we proceed with option 2 of the 2 options that were presented, and that we use the existing fund that we've been using. And if more funds are needed, then that comes back before the committee. And this is to analyze existing buildings within a 2-mile radius to see if those buildings could be used and meet our purposes.
I would second that.
We've got a second on that. All in favor?
Aye.
And none are opposed. Great. Thank you. Item number 7 is report by the interim finance director.
Nothing to report at this time.
Motion to receive and place on file.
Second.
Motion and second to receive and place, nothing on file. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None.
Adjourned.
Adjournment.
Adjournment? Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None? Great.